Hi, welcome to my studio. So I thought it might be fun for you to get a sneak peek into my studio where I create, and this would be a great chance for me to give you some of those artist tips. Now, first thing I want to do is set your mind at ease. You do not have to be an artist to do this. You're going to come away today with a wonderful painting. I'm excited for you. You're going to be creating in joy. We're going to intentionally do that. And let me just tell you, one thing I've done for you is I have already created your image on the canvas with something called joint compound. So I have basically created your artwork for you. You're just going to paint on top of that. It's super simple, and I'm excited for you to have the opportunity. But since I am here and I'm in the studio, I thought it might be fun to just give you some tips and some tricks to make your painting really look like you know what you're doing. So if you're an artist, and in all of my workshops I have artists that come back that have gotten their art degree and now they're in another job or even are working as an artist, go for it. You don't need to listen to a thing I have to say. Go, go, go. Find your joy and create. But if you are somebody that's like, Stacy, I don't know how to paint. I had one gal that said, I can't even paint my fingernails. Listen, I'm gonna give you some tricks and tips. So the first thing I want to talk to you about are the paint brushes. I have 3 different sizes for you that will be about the same size as these. When I taught school, elementary school, and I was dealing with those first graders, I would call this one Papa Bear. I would call this one Mama Bear, and this one Baby Bear. And as you can guess, if I've got a large area, I'm going to use the bigger one, a medium area for the medium one. And those details, Baby Bear takes care of those. So I've got those. There are also tools, some scrapers, and some palette knives, and you can use those too, and I'll show you some examples of what to do with that. Today you are using acrylic paints. I'm excited for you to use these. They come in lots of different colors, and you can always mix colors to create the color that you want, and I encourage that because that's fun. That's being an artist. So you are going to put your paint onto a paper plate. And so you can see I've just kind of chosen my colors. Your joy is your internal GPS. So when you go over to see the colors, I want you to look at those colors, find colors that just make you happy. Even if it doesn't match the bathroom that you're thinking about putting this into, choose them because I want you to choose with joy. You're going to find those colors. Go ahead and put those on your paper plate. I always recommend putting about a quarter size on that paper plate. You're going to get your paint brushes that you need, any other tools that you might need. You're going to have a cup of water, and I usually am saying you're going to share that with somebody sitting next to you. The other thing you're going to need is a paper towel because you're going to want at times for your paintbrush to be clean and dry before you dip into another color. You all know, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this camera this way and give you a better close-up view of my canvas. So here's the canvas. You all have worked on a painting where you've taken, let's just say, oh, here's what I always do first. I start with the background. One reason is because it is not intimidating. It's just your background. You can start to get loose, play, and have fun. Use the biggest brush for that. You all know how to dip into a color and paint with that. I didn't teach you that. You learned that somewhere along the way. What I would love to teach you is this kind of gives you an opaque color. If you want something that's a little bit more watercolor-like, what you're going to do is dip into that water, and you can see right away, once I've dipped into the water, and I love drips, by the way. I think those are super fun. If I just add a little bit of water on my paintbrush, I start to get like a watercolor look, and that color gets lighter. It also really does just some fun things. I love to move fast, work fast, and work, like I said, just kind of work with my joy. I recommend that you work fast because it doesn't give you too much time to think. Now, because some of you are out there already planning yours out. Relax, enjoy this process. You might also know I am painting the top, the sides, and at the end I will paint the bottom. You want to paint all those edges, all right? So we worked with just some color. What I did was I put a little bit of water on my paintbrush and then worked into it. The next thing that I want to show you is what I call double loading. Double loading is simply when you take two colors on your paintbrush at the same time. So on here, I took this like darker teal and a lighter blue. I've got that on my paintbrush at the same time. When I go to paint, it automatically, and I'm going to get a little bit more, it automatically is mixing and giving me some depth of color. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of that blue and a little bit of white, because I think that will stand out a little bit more for you. And if I keep rubbing, it's going to mix those two colors together and I'll get a light blue. If I don't rub too much, I'm gonna get just some white in some areas, some blue in some areas, and you can kind of see what look that is giving me. That is a quick tip I use all the time. Usually when I'm painting, I always have more than one color on my paintbrush at a time. It just gives you a really, really nice look. Also, when you come over to paint around your flower, let me give you some tips. One thing is I'm using this blue. My flower, this is a daffodil, this is going to be yellow. Yellow is really hard to paint over dark colors. So I'm going to kind of be careful when I'm coming up next to any of the petals. I'm going to make a point to just kind of move around those so I don't get too much of this blue color on there, so my yellow goes over it well. If I was going to do a darker flower, maybe a purple one, I would not even be so careful. I'd be kind of going right up onto that plaster. So you can see already, how fun is this? I'm going to get a little bit more water, kind of pull this in. Already, I mean, that took me just a minute or two, and I've got a base coat on my background. You can kind of start to come in here with some other colors. Maybe I want to envision this as some grass. I've got some green. Notice I didn't even wash my paintbrush. I'm jumping right in with that color. A couple of things that you may want to do in the background. I've got some stamps. And you can use some stamps. Stamps are very easy to use. All you do is you take paint, you paint onto that stamp, and you can just go ahead and stamp right on there. Oh, that's kind of neat. And I'm just kind of making some texture with that stamp in the background. That's kind of fun. Okay, then you are going to start to paint your flower. Again, with the flower, one thing that I always do, if I'm gonna paint this yellow, I've got yellow on my paintbrush and white on my paintbrush at the same time. I give this a nice little coat all the way around, and then what I'll do is I will mix some maybe darker yellow and lighter yellow. If you want to get a lighter color, you add white to the color. If you want something darker, you can add black, but boy, that can get really powerful. With this yellow, I might add a little bit of orange or maybe a little bit of brown to darken that up. So that is a tip. Also, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of green on this stem. So here, I don't want you to watch me paint this entire thing. You're ready to go. You're ready to paint. But I wanted to show you a couple of tips with these palette knives. This is the one I love to use. You can see mine is very loved. And what I do is I take that palette knife, I dip it into the paint. So I'm getting it on the end of that. And I come over, I'm going to get the darker blue so you can see it. Can you see that better? I come over and I can outline things. The other wonderful thing, especially with this plaster, is I can rub it over. If I hold this on the side, I can rub this over that plaster, and you can see when I rub, it is just hitting the raised surfaces of that flower. Ooh, that's really kind of neat. I will do this. I'll show you some examples of my work so you can get a good idea, but I wanted you to see exactly how I did this, how I work with this palette knife. If you're going to put a word or a phrase onto your artwork, I recommend making sure that area is dried up. especially if you use the stamps or a stencil. So I've got hair dryers available, so you can go over, dry that area, and then you can get your word put on there. So I know that was quick, but I just wanted you to be able to see some of the paintbrushes and tools that I use, and see the way that I move quickly, and doing, adding in some details. So I am so excited for you to have this painting experience. Again, your GPS is joy. Joy is your inner GPS, and the whole time you're doing this, I want you to feel joy in the colors that you choose and the way that you are using that paintbrush and the strokes that you are putting on there. I want you to love this, and don't forget, this is a tool for you to have a better life. I want that for you. I want you to have a happier life, a more hopeful life, more gratitude in your life, and I hope every time you look at this painting, that is what you're going to see, and that's what you're going to think. So thanks for joining me. I know you're ready to paint now. Get going. Thanks.